Funding for The Rotor Workshop is provided in part by Hitachi Power Tools, manufacturers of a full range of construction and woodworking power tools. Imagine building this beautiful zebra wood vanity stool in your own shop. Today, in The Rotor Workshop, Bob and Rick show you how to do just that. We'll use heart-shaped joinery with contrasting woods to create a unique project any woman would love. The vanity stool, next in The Rotor Workshop.
Welcome to the Работа Workshop. Today we're going to talk about a vanity stool. And Dad, you're going to give us a few details on what we're going to do today?
Well, this one we got out of zebra wood, which is kind of neat wood if you can see the wild grain in it. And one thing you'll notice in here, we've had screws go in to fasten it together. Well, we're going to eliminate that today because I'm going to use dovetails.
Okay.
But the other thing we're going to do is we're going to put some heart patterns in here to hold it together. And it's going to look pretty classy. And we got walnut and we got oak in it. We just thought we'd show this one in here set up, and it's got a nice padded cushion on side of it. And it's kind of a neat little project. And then, Rick, you're going to do is cut out the shapes here and show them how to do that with the router.
All right.
All right.
Well, I'll move this vanity stool out of the way, and you go ahead and set up and get going.
I'm on the way. First off, I'm going to use a miter gauge in here, and I've chucked up a dovetail bit in it. Now, a dovetail bit that I'm using is a half-inch dovetail bit. It's got 14-degree slope on it. And I'll let you have a little better look here at it. It's a half-inch across, got a 14-degree on it, and there's 2 pieces of carbide, of course, on it that's been around to do the job. Now, we've chucked it up inside of here, and it's on a guide, so this can go wherever it likes. But we got 2 operations to do here. We've got to cut a dovetail slot, and we've also got to cut the dovetail pin to fit that slot. So I'm going to set this up. And the height of the bit, if you had a brand new cutter in there, I would suggest that about 3/8 of an inch would be the right height here for it. We'll just set that a little bit of a, let me give you a little tip here as I just thought about something as I did that. Anytime you're setting the height of a router bit in your router in it, raise the bit up and then set it on the way down when you pull it, as opposed to trying to lift it up. Otherwise, you got the weight of the machine with you. This way it's coming down. That'll make it a little easier for you to set it. Now, I've got it set up for height in it. I'm going to let this work first as a fence because these are the legs. Now, I've used just a little piece of 2x2 here, and I found center. And how I did that, I put the 2x2 flush on the outside, picked this up, slid it over to this side, picked another line up, and then what that did was put 2 lines close together, and you won't be far off. In fact, that looks about the width of the dovetail bit. So now by rotating that bit, and it's not plugged in, we can set that up over the top here. I'll just pull that a little further in it, and then I'm going to put a clamp on here and clamp that down. So we'll just set that inside, and just about like that. Let that come in there. Now, I think I'm just, perfect. Now, how far do I go? I mean, I'm not going to run right through with it. We've got a rail also. So we need to go the depth of the rail. And I put a piece of masking tape on here. We want to go down that deep. But the thing is, folks, we don't want to go right down. We want to put a little notch on it so that when it covers it, and I'll show you how that's done. So we'll rotate the bit again, and I'm going to get its true length here, and then I'm going to allow for my notch. So now this is kind of neat. You get a piece of masking tape, and you put 2 lines on it, and then you wonder which one you should go to. Usually better to change it, but I'll take a chance on it here, make sure that I don't forget. Now, what we're going to do, set it up. I'm going to run up to that point and come back, and I got 4 legs to do in it. Well, that vanity stool takes 4 legs. So let's see if we got some power here. Run it off, and we're ready to go. There's the slot. One of the things that happens with a dovetail bit, people, don't feed it any faster in than what it'll clean out. You'll notice it worked good until I slowed down, and that's where you get this little buildup. If you go slow enough, it'll jam right up there, and it's not a good practice for it at all. Now, let's take that clamp off and cut the pin to match that. So we'll take this apart in here, allow this to freewheel, and we'll get our fence to go with that, our pin fence. And this time we're centering it on 3/4 inch material, so we'll set it up on this side. And I need my clamp again in it, about like that. And these are the 2 rails. And on those 2 rails, I'm going to take and mark a face side. So we'll put a little X on a face side here. And that face side will always go into this side in here. So we'll put that bit in it like that, put this up, and go back to my clamp again. You don't try to hold that thing, people. It's best to put a clamp on it. It takes away a lot of hassle for you at the end anyway. Just clamp it in there. Now, what we're going to do is start that up and come back with it. And the reason for it is that bit's turning in that direction, and I'm cutting on this side of the cutter. Then I'll move the fence over and come on the other way. So this is how we're all set up to do this. Okay, away we go. Now, we got all the dovetails done. Well, the big thing we want to do before we take anything apart here, let's see what kind of a fit. I could have done that before, but I was pretty sure we had a good fit in it. And we do. We got a good driving fit in here. Now, what we need to do is get a notch, and I'm going to show you why we need that notch. The reason we need the notch down in here is that when you come down inside, then it'll cover. So I'm going to just cut and cover that out, and I'll do it with the miter gauge. So we'll get the other piece over here. Then we're going to have to fasten them legs to a different system here. So there we go. Remember when you cut those little haunches on it that you do them on the same side, don't reverse them in them because you need these flush on the top. So that's going to hold those 2 sections of legs together. Now, let's take this down, and this time we're going to put a very unique fixture in here. We've got a heart pattern, and we'll use that. Make sure you unplug your router every time you change a cutter. And the cutter that I'm going to put in this time is a spiral bit. It is a solid carbide. And we'll put that back inside of here. I'm going to just rough set the height of that. Now we got a very unique fixture here. Fixture that I've got in here is a pattern, and it's got hearts in it. And so what we're going to do is cut the heart pockets on the side of the legs, and then we're going to reverse the fixture around, and we'll cut the heart pins to fit those from the opposite side. So we'll just set this up. I put it inside, locked it down in here. I've got a little shim piece at the back side because of the width of the board, and lock it in here, put some pressure on it. Everything is down tight. Now, rotating it up in here, all I need is 2. I need 2 hearts. So I'm going to put a little mark in here, and that's where I'm going to start. And it'll cut in just a little, and that's the width of our rail that's fastening to it. So now the only thing I have to do is adjust the height of that bit. I want to cut right through it. So we'll run it up about like that. And we won't proceed too fast in here, and we'll see what happens. I'll get some plug-in in here, get some power to it, and we're ready to go. That's not a very big diameter bit, so you have to take it in several bites. And one of the reasons, you get your debris caught up in here. If there was some way you could suck it out of there, but you can't cut past the width of it at a time anyway, so that's why it takes it. What's neat about it is you can look up inside of here and see that no debris buildup, and I'm going to take some of it out of here, because that could affect your fit in. If you get sawdust in between, the cuttings in between of your guide and your bit system in here, your pattern, you'd be in problems. So I'll just clean that out of here. What happens with walnut, it gets a little sticky sometimes too, and it likes to stick to the pattern. So we'll pop that back in, and then we'll just go over it one more time. Okay, we need the other three done like that, but what I'm going to do is just set that aside for a moment here and just show you what happens when we turn the other side. We'll flip that around, and now we can take these two pins out, and we've got our rail. And when you put the rail in, we don't really know where to locate that, so we have a special pin that goes in, and that pin has got, let me just take that stick away here. See the size of the pin in it? What it's got is that little offset in it. And the pin sets down just as a holder, and then we can tell how far the board should project by, so that if it isn't exactly cut square, the bit will do it. So we'll set that up, lock that pin up to its point there, lock it like that, and lock this down. I'm using two clamps in it. There's quite a bit of pressure when you exert coming across, so we'll set it up. Then I got another little block in here just as a precautionary thing. We'll put that in here and lock it down, and that'll so you won't get any twist in it. Okay, let's start again, and again we proceed from the left, working to the right. So let's just start that up. Just going to stop here and clean out, and we'll just see what kind of debris we've got built up on the back side. It sticks in there just a little. We'll just clean that back out of here. That'll allow that guide to come up tight to the pattern, and we're getting pretty close there. That stuff is pretty hard to clean out of there, but it's cutting good anyway. So, and sometimes you get it around the guide. One more pass. Now, I'm going to just lower that bit down for a second there and let it run down. And we'll set that fixture aside. We'll just have to have a peek here and see what kind of a fit we do have in it. Got a little bit of a burry piece off there. And we got a nice fit there. And I'm not going to put it all the way in because we're going to glue that and we're going to finish the other ends up. And when I get those finished up there, we'll get over to Rick and we'll get one done there for him, and then he's going to cut the pattern of it out.
Now for the tough job. What we're going to have to do here now is make these. We've got this rough cut out. Dad's already glued up and put the pieces in there in the hearts. Now we want to make them so that they're symmetrical and exactly the same. Well, what we've done again is we've made ourselves a jig, which is exactly the shape that we're looking to cut these. Now, when you're making more than one, the router is the best tool to do that, and using this procedure works well because, again, like I said, we're making two exactly the same. To start with, if we look at this, we're going back to a guide system and the router bit, and the router bit and the guide just sort of follow along your pattern and cut the shape that you've rough cut out. Now, you've noticed that this is not the big square pieces. We've taken the bandsaw and rough cut them out so that it's easier on the cutter to make the cuts. I've got 2 toggle clamps on the top end here, and on the top of this jig's a little bit tough to work with, and you're going to have to be a part of on your table and know exactly where to put it to make it work. I've also got double stick tape on this just to make sure it doesn't skid on us. So let's go ahead and try it. I'm going to do the inside first, and the most important part here is make sure you position your hands so you're away from the cutter. You want to make sure that you have your jig between you and your hands at all times. Okay, let's go ahead and cut it. Now that we've got the shape exactly what we're looking for, now what we're going to do is change it to a round over bit, and we're going to round over both sides. So let me go ahead and set this down here, and we're going to drop the cutter down below first, and I'm going to unplug it, and I'm going to take the piece that I'm looking to cut here and get it outside of this mold here. Now I've used double stick tape on this, so it should be, there we go. And there's our shape all ready to go. Now all we need to do is round over the 2 edges. So I'm going to set this down here for a second, now that we've got the shape we're looking for, and put our jig away. And we'll go ahead, we got it unplugged now. Let's bring up the tool here. We're going to change the cutter to a round over bit. And we'll get that changed. Drop the next cutter in here. It's going to be, the bit we're using now is a 1/4 inch round over bit. And this one here has got a 1/2 inch shank. Anytime you can work with 1/2 inch shank, you're better off with that. Again, it gives you a lot more support, and it can dissipate the heat a lot better than the 1/4 inch. Not saying that 1/4 inch isn't going to do the job for you. Just if you get the option, you got the chance to do that, make sure that you can use that if you possibly can. I'm going to take the guide out here. I no longer need that. We'll put that away. And now let's raise the height of this bit here. I'll get it set, and then I'm going to show you what I've got. I just want that to just round over the edge. We don't want to put any lines on it. We want it to be a smooth, just a 1/4 inch round over. And I'll clear the dust here, and we've got it all set so that it's just flush with the surface here. Same with the bearing. The bearing's a round over. There's no lines. It's not a beading bit. We're just rounding over the edge. Now, you notice the first time I was cutting with the jig, I had a place to set onto it. I didn't use a safety guide pin. The reason for the safety guide pin is that you want to get onto this bearing, and you've got a cutter that's not allowing you to do that. Well, with the guide on the bottom, it had a place where it could go before it could get into the cutting of the material. Whereas here now, we can't do that, so we're going to have to put the safety guide pin in place. So we'll put the pin in place here. Now that's going to allow us to get our pieces up tight to that. And again, this is a fairly large piece to play with, so what we're going to do, and you can go anywhere around this as long as you stay on the cutting side of the tool. So if you watch me, I'm not always going to be cutting on this side. I'll be moving it around as well. All right, so now we're going to plug it back in again, and let's go ahead and cut the pieces. Now we have it all molded and rounded over. We're ready to dry fit it. It's time for Router Bits, where we highlight viewer mail and projects. Our first project is from David of Manitoba. David has used a combination of router operations and a wood-burning set to make the perfect plaque. The wood-burning set was used to make the rows in the center. The router was used to decorate and shape the edges. David finished the plaque with a hook for hanging. This time our viewer project is from Andy, a Girl Scout leader from Illinois.
I'm a Girl Scout leader, and I've used a fold-up camp stool as a mass production project. This project was used by my 12-year-old Girl Scouts as a fundraising event. I'm a beginning woodworker who took a router class, and from this was able to teach simple techniques with the router. The first photo shows the fold-up camp stool in the upright position and in the fold-down position. Our second photo shows the detail of the seat. A router table was set up to round over each of the pieces. The next photo shows the hinge system of the stool. The router was used to drill the hole and make the dowel pin for the hinge of the stool. The final photo identifies who produced the folding stool, which was a great experience for everyone. The girls experienced the process of mass production with the router, learned about product sales, and I got to use the things I'd learned from my router classes. This was a great combination for all.
Are we ready to assemble there, Rick?
Yes, I think so. I got all these pieces rounded over, and
You hold the rails, I'll hold the sides.
all right, and we'll put one of these inside of here.
You got
The
your
other
hammer
side.
there in case you need it.
Yeah, I'm going to need it. Just use the butt end of this side here, and
You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to turn this around and let you do the other side.
I'll let you do that.
Just turn that around.
And we'll slide this next one in place. And
Now, look at the neat hearts on the front.
you
Shows
got the
up
hearts
lots
on.
of strength.
All we need now is a seat, and I have one right here.
A cushion for it.
Cushion to put inside here, slide it in place. And you know what? There's the vanity stool.
You know what else it'll do?
What?
When you put that in, you see the cleats on the bottom of there?
Yeah.
That'll square it up, too.
That'll help you hold it together and make it
Bingo.
perfect. All right. Hey, thanks for watching us at the Router Workshop.
We'd like to hear from you. You can email us at the address on your screen. Send your comments, questions, or project ideas to the Router Workshop, Post Office Box 608, Chamberlain, South Dakota 57325. Or in Canada, the Router Workshop, Post Office Box 280, Ely, Manitoba ROH-OHO. To learn more about the Router Workshop, visit us at the internet address on your screen. There are few things so satisfying to build or give than a beautiful pine chest. In a special two-part series, Bob and Rick will show you how to make one in your shop. We'll start with the unique raised panels which create that professional-look construction. Next time, right here in the Router Workshop. Funding for The Router Workshop is provided in part by Hitachi Power Tools, manufacturers of a full range of construction and woodworking power tools. For $16.99 plus $4.99 shipping and handling, you can order Bob and Rick Rosenthal's The Router, a 130-page book which includes a plan to build the router table and bench, plus numerous tips, techniques, and educational information. Call 1-800-803-1449.